Hello everyone. Welcome to UInSports podcast. Once a sports person, always is a sports person. As a part of our podcast series, as we promised, we are bringing our podcast in front of you. And we have a very nice guest with us. We wanted to introduce him, Joshua Brett.
Yeah,
He has a fascinating journey and we will go through his journey step by step. But our intention is basically unfolding these journeys in front of you, and it might be your own journey as well. So let me once again introduce you, Joshua Brad. Hi, Joshua.
nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
of
your
course.
time. So, Joshua, uh, before we start, maybe you can just brief our audience about yourself.
Yeah, of course. I'm 23 years old. Just recently graduated from the University of Waterloo. I just need to get my, go to commencement, get my cap and all that, and then I'll be officially done. But I finished all my schooling, got that all out of the way. I'm also a instructor at Black Belt Weld in Kitchener, where I've been working there, I think, up to 8 months now. About there. Basically, I've been there since we started, helping. Her name's Master Erin. She's, I believe, fifth degree black belt now, and so she's been running the show, and I've just been helping her along the way.
That's so nice. And let's start from your childhood. So, what was really your inspiration when you started Taekwondo?
Yeah, so my dad, he was in karate, and so that was sort of like an encouraging way, but I wasn't in. I actually started when I was 4 years old, and when I was really young, I was on soccer. But I could not handle being on like a team sport. Like I was a bit of a crazy child. My parents did a great job raising me. I was a bit all over the place, and so they want to put me in taekwondo to like learn discipline, sort of become a better version of myself. Because when I was a kid, it just things just didn't really make sense. I was just kind of want to do what I wanted to do. So when it was team sports, it was like, oh, I want to be on the other team. Oh, I want to play goalie. I don't want to, So putting me in taekwondo really helped me with like calming down, finding myself, and sort of putting me on a good path ahead.
So, goal is really to keep you busy.
Yeah, and keep me disciplined for sure.
But then how it really started unfolding when you realized that this is where I really wanted to go in a serious taekwondo competitions.
Yeah, so I mean, when I was a white belt, like as I was saying before, like I was kind of crazy. So my entire time of being a white belt, I was doing private classes, working one on one with the instructor to like sort of learn the things. My grading was with one other person. It was just me and this one other girl. We got our yellow stripe, and it was kind of like a really cool moment because as a kid, you have all these people around you clapping like you did a great job, and it's just so encouraging that you just kind of want to keep on going. And the people that are teaching you, they're all black belts. They all know what they're doing. So that's sort of you're seeing what you can become at such a young age, and then you just kind of want to work towards it and do the best you can. And I think I was maybe I didn't I was kind of scared to do tournaments when I was really really young because I was 4 years old when I started taekwondo. Like
Oh, wow.
yeah like that's why I was having problems because like 3 years old I was doing soccer,
Right, right.
extremely young when I was going into sports, but it was really good for me because it sort of I was able to figure out these things at a really young age and find out what I wanted to do, and taekwondo was really big for that. And so I think it was maybe when I was probably 10 or 11, so it was a while before I did my first tournament, and I had years above people, but it was hard for me to kind of put my training into perspective of a tournament because while I was having fun still, like yeah, I was a little serious,
Yeah,
but it was
that's right.
never kind of like they're stressing me out about how serious something is because I was a little, when it came to patterns and grading, I was able to always get my stuff. I was able to figure it out, but with tournaments, I needed a bit more encouragement. So my first tournament was in-house tournament at my dojang, who was
Hmm.
Masters Taekwondo in Brampton, and I did a really good job. I succeeded, but like a little crazy kid, things didn't go my way and I wasn't really happy. So even though I did succeed, I got mad at myself for not succeeding in other areas. But I was such a young kid that I look back now and I laugh, but at the time it
That,
was sort of like the end of the world,
that's how we learn,
right?
right? But I think you had a good support system in terms of your father was already in the karate, right? So he knew bits and pieces.
Yeah, and for him, because he never earned his black belt,
Hmm.
so like when I earned my black belt, that was a big day for him, and he was really proud
That
because
was really
he kind
proud.
of got to see that moment. Like I got to be able to get something that he wasn't able to finish getting, so
So
Yeah.
in a way, you fulfilled your dad's dream.
Yeah. Pretty
That's so
much.
nice. And then how was the support system around you, like in terms of having access to coaches, or like how those levels are that you need to cross, right?
Yeah.
Not from the age of 4, but as you started growing and you started really realizing that I need to take it more seriously.
Mhm. Definitely when I was, I think probably got my red belt because I noticed that I wasn't breezing through it, but things weren't like I learned my material, then I could go to grading. I learned my material, go to grading, and I was able to do it pretty consistently. And I think so. 4 years old, I started, and I earned my black belt at 12. So at I think probably 9 years old, 10 years old, that's when I earned my red belt. And so it took me almost 2 years, 2.5 years just to get my black belt from that position because um, it was no longer just grade patterns or learning your material. You had to have your red belt for almost like 8 months before
Mhm.
you're considered for grading, and then after that black stripe was almost a year you had to wait. But you also needed to have, I think, up to 50 hours of basically not really community service, but it was helping, assisting in classes. So that was basically required for our black belt, was to assist classes, and we also had to do a written test.
Yeah. I started realizing that my son is also doing Taekwondo,
Yeah, yeah.
so it's at, I think, very at the initial stage.
The thing is, though, is that what we're doing at Black Belt World is different from where I was in Master's Taekwondo, where we don't do written tests here.
Hmm.
Master Aaron was so shocked when I said that to her, actually. But the main difference, though, is that where I learned Taekwondo, it was at International Taekwondo Federation.
Hmm.
Where we are now, it's World Taekwondo Federation. So all the patterns that I previously mastered and learned, no longer we do. Simple things as like a walking stance. In original Taekwondo, is basically what a long stance looks like in WTF.
Hmm.
So things were really different where I had to kind of readjust and learn, but I got to a point with training with Master Aaron where I was able to get to all the knowledge that a black belt in WTF Taekwondo needs and actually like succeed and help these students learning as well.
Right. And no, you guys are doing great job, like preparing the next generation, right?
Yeah, definitely a lot. And it's I think what a big thing at that is sort of discipline. I feel sometimes we don't know if we want to be disciplined with the students, but we also want them to feel like they want to come back. We
Right,
don't want them
right,
to think they hate us or we
right,
hate them. That's why
right.
we're yelling at them, but we care a lot about them and we want to encourage them. And so we get some. It's nice that we get feedback from the parents where they're like, you know what, you can be a little harder on my son. That's okay. We're like, that's why we're getting him here. We want him to learn discipline. We want to teach him these things. And so we're really working as a really good sort of support group for these students so they can learn and be the best versions of themselves. When I was in Taekwondo, it was a lot more like hard discipline. Like, this is what you got to do. You got to do this now, run, go. And it was just kind of nonstop. So it, as a kid, it kind of worked for me because I was all over the place. And so that was nice. Um, but we do things differently. And I think the way we do it uh, at Black Belt World is really good just because there's a lot of just focus on the students. I'll go up to a student, have a little conversation with them, understand where he's at, go to the next. Where I was learning, it was a huge dojo, so it was really hard for them to kind of make that individual time for students. I think we only have maybe two blue belts right now, but at my old place, there at one time there's 10 at least. There's 10 different blue belts, and then suddenly they grade, and then oh, we got another 7 blue belts, and it's just there's so many students that it's kind of hard to have that focus on them. So it was just a lot of yelling and just you aren't practicing, sit out for now.
Right.
Versus us, if the kid's not helping, we're gonna have a little chat with them. We're gonna talk with them, try and make things.
So when you really realized that, okay, now you played your one first competition, right? But then there are sequence, and then what is the path forward? Uh, how you basically approached or got that guidance, right? That this is my path forward if I have to seriously take Taekwondo as a career.
I think that well, just especially with like just years of understanding the sport, being at it from a really really young age,
Hmm.
I think that if you were to sort of go into, we have a lot of new students who are basically in high school and they're white belts, and it kind of blows my mind. It's like, what is it that you want to do it now? Because a kid needs that discipline. His parents are like, hey, like you're a wild child, you need to go into Taekwondo. But it's cool to see these 13, 14-year olds that are kind of going for themselves and that's kind of different from the way that I went in, where it was sort of, my parents saw me doing problems. Okay, put him in. This is what we got to do for him, just to
Okay.
make sure that he's actually learning um, and growing from a young age. Because yeah, I definitely needed a little extra support as a kid, but now at my age, I'm sort of looking back and I laugh at that and sort of
Yeah, that's always the case, right? But uh, how was it financially? Because it was like there are so many
yeah.
competitions, and then you have those gears and all that. So how was generally it was like easy journey or roller coaster journey?
For us, it was okay, just because my sister, she was in figure skating.
Hmm.
So my mom was a figure skater, so they would, there's a lot of actually figure skating was worse, to be honest, because with her it was there's skating shows, you have to pay for the outfits. There's all
Exactly.
these new outfits, shoes. She was growing up like as a skater. She did it from a child to an adult, so I think she needed like 3 or 4 or 5 different pairs of skates throughout her life. So with me, it was a little different because with Taekwondo financially, we were paying for the service, which it was a lot, but because I was only doing Taekwondo and she was only doing skating, my parents were willing to invest that money
Okay.
for us. If we were to all of a sudden be like, I want to do hockey, I want to do a second sport, they're probably going to be like, no. Okay,
So that time you were really focused on taekwondo and no
yeah.
other sports. Means initially it was soccer, but eventually you transitioned to.
Soccer was just a sport they put me in because it's like, let's have them do something.
Okay.
I never said, I want to do soccer.
Oh, so as a parent, definitely I can correlate to that.
Yeah.
That okay, you try this, you try that, you try that, and then maybe depending on a seriousness.
Yeah, actually, I remember they wanted, because my sister was a skater, mom was a skater, they wanted to put me in skating. I have flashbacks to that day they tried making me skate. It was horrible. They put me in a group of people, and I had no idea what I'm doing. And then they're like, "All right, go to this other group." And then they put me in this other group, and this girl kept kicking my skates. I'm like, I've been here for 10 minutes, and then I got all mad and I left. I think I was like 7 years old, and so like, I had
You got,
tried other things, but I was like, no, I just
you
want
got
to stick
you
with.
got scared and
Yeah, I'm getting frustrated. I want to stick with what I know and I'm comfortable with, and that's what I'm going to do. But I love Taekwondo, and I loved the stuff I was learning, and as a kid, I was kind of like picked on a bit. I wanted to be a YouTuber, so I was posting videos on YouTube.
that's nice.
Well,
That's
yeah,
nice.
and then kids would they'd like put the video in class. They'd like play it and stuff like that. So eventually, it just kind of turned into a way of tormenting me. So Taekwondo was great for that because like I could kind of like I was it grade 3 or grade 4 kids were doing this, so then I just go to Taekwondo, get my anger out, and it was just a positive way for me to do stuff because um, at school teachers weren't really doing much. I'd tell my parents, but there's only so much they can do, so I go to Taekwondo, and it was a place for me to feel kind of nice, feel free, especially because I was there for so long, so as a higher belt.
Right.
People kind of looked up to me at Taekwondo, so it was nice that I kind of went from this not enjoying school and then going to Taekwondo and having a really good time. So that was a really nice change for me.
And was it beneficial as you progress, like from elementary to secondary to high school, because of Taekwondo? Was there kind of a special treatment which you got because of that?
Uh, I mean, I would say that in terms of like the owners of the Taekwondo place I knew because or I went to, because I was there for so long, they were familiar with me. My parents were familiar with them. The owner was actually he lives in the same town as me, so we had some common things. I've even seen him around like the grocery store just shopping and stuff like that. So they were very close with me just because I've been there for so long and I was close. I went to Taekwondo camp as well, and they were all running it, and I went there like every year. So I definitely became really close with the owners. And the only reason I stopped going to Taekwondo was because I got to high school, started focusing on wrestling and doing stuff like that. And then by that time, it was kind of hard for me because where I was doing Taekwondo was in Brampton.
Hmm.
And because I was born in Brampton, when I was in junior kindergarten, I moved to Georgetown, where I am now. And I had to make that commute, which wasn't too bad. But once I was in high school, it kind of became a challenge because then I'm like, okay, I want to do sports here, and then by the time I finish, it's like 5:30. I'm too exhausted to go to Taekwondo at like 7:30. So at that point, I just kind of knew it was time that I kind of had to give up my belt and called the Taekwondo quits.
So, but you did a transition. You transitioned to a wrestling
Yeah,
when you were in high school.
yeah. So in terms of because Taekwondo and wrestling, they're very different sports.
Right.
Um, a lot of the thing, some it's both a fighting style, but if I was to compare wrestling, it'd be a bit more to jujitsu or judo. I actually was because in wrestling they're teaching you wrestling.
Hmm.
So what's a way you could beat your opponents? Learn judo and do something do a judo move on them that they've never even learned in their life, and stuff like that. So it definitely just kind of gave me a better understanding because I knew Taekwondo, I knew wrestling, and sort of wanted to me to understand other sports, other aspects of sport. How does karate compare to Taekwondo? What is jujitsu different from all these other things? There's actually one sport I really want to learn it. I feel like the sport was made for me. It's called Hapkido, and it's a Korean self-defense. It's kind of like wrestling almost, but then it's Taekwondo is Korean as well, so it has those aspects as well. So it's kind of like the two sports that I like combined to one almost, and it just seems like something I'd really be interested in.
So you wanted to try that as well?
I'd love to try that. Yeah, I mean I'm too old to like commit to that sport, but I'd definitely give it a shot.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I think you will. But then wrestling. So you started wrestling, and then what? Means you.
Yeah, so I was a little bit I was a little chubbier as a kid. I think maybe by like grade 6 or 7, I was by that time I was a bit bigger than all the other students, but I just didn't realize. My parents didn't even think I was chubby, so that was the problem. Was no one was telling me, and so I got to uh, grade. By the time I finished grade 8, I was 190 pounds. By the time I got to grade 9, I started working out. I got up down to 180, and then through wrestling, because I all of a sudden I went to my first tournament, and I was facing like big guys, like grade 12s and 11s, and I'm grade 9, and that's when I kind of had the realization, like, oh, I am kind of big. I need to. So then, in one semester, I just fully committed to working out, wrestling. I just made it my number one focus. I was able to drop from 180 to 140 in one semester.
So that is you figured it out, not like somebody told you, but you figured it out, right?
Yeah, it was. I did my first tournament, got destroyed, and I was like, okay, I need to start facing people my own age, and by doing that, I need to drop some weight.
When you started wrestling, right? And again, wrestling is starting from zero
Yes.
because you did taekwondo, you got taekwondo black belt, and I think you were still in a competitions. You were competitions in maybe a province level or national level,
No,
sort of.
I was only doing Taekwondo tournaments locally
Hmm.
because, like I said, I was 12 by the time I got my
Black
black
belt.
belt, and I just didn't really have that confidence to start competing
Hmm.
outside of local tournaments. So I was doing well in locally, competing against a good number of people, but I never went provincially, I never went nationally, just because I was too scared. Basically, I just didn't have the confidence I
Hmm.
had, which is too bad because by the time I was in grade 10 and 11, that confidence was there, but I
But
was no longer doing
was
taekwondo.
it only a confidence or lack of guidance, lack of counseling, a lack of maybe a support system?
It was well, there's a few things. So for example, one thing is I have anxiety and I can know how to control it now, but when I was a kid I had no ability to
Hmm.
control it. Like a simple thing would happen and I'd start crying. I couldn't handle it. So I wanted to not go put myself in situations where I knew that that might happen. So then that was kind of why. So I only stayed locally because that was something that I'm like, I'm not going to embarrass myself. I'm not going to, get upset. So by the time I got to high school, it was like that feeling was kind of gone already. So then I
Hmm.
was able to go into these matches just confident. Even though I lost, I shook my opponent's hand. I was impressed with some of the stuff. One time I lost to this guy in wrestling. He's so talented. He grabs me by the wrists, huge hand. He was the same weight as me, but this guy's fingers were just like almost double in size. And he just grabs me by the wrist and just slowly crawls up my body. And I'm just unable to do anything. And while we're wrestling, I just start laughing. And then he rolls me on my back, pins me. I'm still laughing. I shake his hand. What did you just do to me, man? And yeah, it was just coming to an understanding because as a kid, I probably would have gotten, I probably had a little hissy fit and got
Right,
upset
right.
just because I don't know how to handle my emotions. I just felt like I didn't understand things as a kid.
But
Like,
how was your coaches? Because I think even if you are small, the coaches they kind of understand their students, right? And then
yeah,
they come
in
forward
wrestling or
to
taekwondo.
in both.
In taekwondo, I think they're a bit more hands off. If I was ever acting out, they'd have a talk with me.
Hmm.
But I didn't want to like I didn't really open myself up to them. Like they knew me, they knew that I might get upset, but I never explained to them why. But I think it
Mhm.
was just because I was so young, I couldn't make the words out. I couldn't say it in a way that they would understand without me just sounding like a sad little boy.
Yeah, not everyone is basically talkative, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so, but with wrestling, I was a bit more. I definitely had a bit. I grew a bit of an attitude, I'd say. Uh, before where I was going for like if I was a Taekwondo match, I'm gonna go for what's there. Like if I see an open kick, I'm gonna kick. When it came to wrestling, I I was a bit more like, I could beat this guy, so let's have a little bit of fun. But looking back, I actually watched my wrestling matches and a couple of them, and I'm like, this is me. Like I'm kind of like my attitude was so bad because of the years of me just not really letting out that anger. I kind of built it up a bit, and so I look back and I'm like, ugh, that's kind of bad. But now I know that that's how I acted, and just sort of see the changes that I made for myself, and just kind of be a better person and help people avoid making those mistakes that I made.
Right, right. Yeah, that's actually that's what we learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in terms of as you progress, like wrestling started during high school, and then what? How those transitions or the levels happened for the wrestling?
Yeah. So with wrestling, it was so I kind of got in a weird position where when I got accepted to university, I applied for the Rec and Leisure program at Brock University and at Waterloo University.
Okay.
The thing is that um, Waterloo's program was better in my opinion because it had co-op. It was just a bit more, the school's reputation's a little bit, Waterloo has a really good reputation, so
Yes,
that's helped.
certainly.
And so that really encouraged my decision, especially my mom. My mom was like, "You have to go to Waterloo. This is like amazing for you. Like this is gonna be great for you." And so Brock has the number one wrestling team in Canada at the time. I don't know if they still do, but at the time they did. And so it was like, do I go to Brock for the program and then be on the wrestling team, or do I
Hmm.
go to Waterloo and then there's no wrestling team whatsoever? And so in the end, I decided Waterloo because they had like the co-op program that was available to me, which allowed me to basically I took a semester off and then I work throughout that whole semester. So usually people do 2 semesters in the summer, or 2 semesters and then they get summer. For me, it was no summer, but then every other semester would be a work semester for me.
Okay. Yeah. Means you think that if you would have gone to Prox, it could be a different.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think I think that if I went to Brock, it would have been difficult too because uh, the the wrestling grind is insane, especially in high school. It was like I loved it, but it was hard. It was really hard work, and to be able to manage that for the whole time I'm in Brock, it would have been like I guess 4 years pretty much. It would have been really really difficult, and it would have just put a stump on my like career and what I want to
Right,
do in the
right. So
future.
that's where then you need to decide that balance it out.
Yeah, and so I went to Waterloo. That's what I decided. I've been doing really well, and I was doing really well in school. I was able to get some really good co-op positions because it's so basically my program's recreation and leisure studies, and a lot of the people in my program they go into sports business or hospitality and tourism. It was just weird because for me it was like I wanted to go there, but I didn't know what I wanted to do in life.
Hmm.
Like I think it wasn't until second year university where I was like, okay, this is what I want to do, and what I want to pursue is marketing. Not wasn't sure exactly what in marketing I wanted to do, but being able to go to University of Waterloo, doing the co-ops. I worked for this one lady for called Boomerang Life. We were doing content creation for dementia and Alzheimer's, and that was sort of my big break because with no marketing experience, without a marketing degree, and not going to school for business, I was able to get a job that those type of students are looking for, versus the previous semesters I was a ski lift attendant
Hmm.
and a host at a restaurant. And so for me, going to doing that to then doing social media marketing and content creation was a really big deal. And so it was kind of like getting that job was kind of the moment where I realized, okay, maybe I should have called sports a quit and pursued like what I want to do in the future.
Right, right. So then you stopped doing wrestling, or you were still doing the wrestling while.
So there was no way I could do wrestling there. I could have joined a club, but I didn't have my car in first year, so there would have been no way for me to really travel. It would have been really difficult unless I'm taking the bus routes. And just with being in my first year of university, there's a lot I have to do, a lot I have to
Right,
learn. So I
right.
just, without wrestling being a thing that's already there, it's going to be kind of hard. I did actually try starting a wrestling team. I think I maybe got like 4 or 5 people interested, and then I just wasn't able to pursue it because just
That was in
things
the
kept
college.
popping up at the University of Waterloo. Yeah, because they had like a mat, like a room that has a big mat, so it would have
Hmm.
worked out. But I just wasn't able to get people going, and it was actually not until I was in fifth year, practically my second last semester at university, someone started a wrestling team for Waterloo, and so then I got to go. But the thing is, I've been out for 5 years, and so then I practiced. I think I was only able to go twice a week to practice, and beforehand I was going I think 4 times a week to practice in high school. And yeah, so then my first tournament didn't go so well. I had fun though. I think I got fourth in it
Hmm.
for the wrestling tournament, and then but yeah, it was just a good time. But I just wasn't able to go back because around that time I was looking for a job. I was searching for a job for almost maybe 2 months before Master Erin, she messaged me through LinkedIn, asked if I'd be
So that's
interested.
how again it went back to Taekwondo.
Yeah,
So it started with Taekwondo, then wrestling, and then
back to
again
Taekwondo.
Taekwondo,
Yeah, because
and
I
now
was able to use my experience because years of being in Taekwondo, I just knew how instructors act. I knew how you're supposed to be, so I was able to sort of just shift into that really easily. I went
right.
after watching about a week's worth of classes. I was able to start assisting the classes, and then after that, I was just running classes on my own. There's this his name was Master Artin, and he was at Black Belt World, and he was sort of the instructor who, basically, Master Aaron's like second person.
Hmm.
I was sort of learning from Master Aaron, but he already knew what he was doing, and he was phenomenal. He just, got these kids to listen right away. It was almost like he always knew what to say. It was like he is an excellent instructor, excellent Taekwondo master, and I was really great that I got to learn from him because I learned some really amazing stuff. And then for a while, it was after he left because he came in to basically start things because it
Right,
was a new
right,
school,
right.
and so after that, I kind of basically was like one of the only ones taking over. And then we had some more people coming in, and now we sort of have like a whole fleet of instructors, and it's really great.
Yes, and means it grew a lot.
Yeah,
There were so many students, and one thing which I really like is few students are autists, right?
yeah,
But the kind of support which you guys give, that is really exceptional, and they feel like they are part of the system. They are really like part of togetherness. That feeling is there. Uh, you mentioned that you wanted to use your marketing towards the sports side as well, right? Means
yeah. So right now, I'm a social media accounts manager for a marketing agency, working firsthand with clients just to make sure that the stuff they want to see on their social media pages are going to be actually made, and we're going to put that stuff on there. Same with advertising, working towards understanding Google Ads, spending budgets, and stuff like that. And so I'm learning a lot of these really really important stuff, and I could easily see me wanting to do this in the future because I was before I got hired there, I was doing marketing for a friend of mine for his construction business,
mhm.
and it was basically like he directly hired me to do marketing for his company. And then once I got this position, now I'm doing marketing for a variety of companies. And so what I'd be interested in is actually starting a marketing agency, either just starting with dojangs, martial art related studios and
Mhm.
stuff like that, and then seeing where that could branch off. But I'd like to start with martial arts because that's something that I'm familiar with and I know a lot about. And with my marketing expertise, I feel that I could really help elevate these dojangs and just get more people encouraged in trying it because it's. I think I actually have noticed is that like fighting sports has kind of gotten a lot more popular.
Right.
Like when I was a kid at my elementary school, I think there was one other girl in my grade who did or she did karate actually. So no one in my grade did taekwondo. One person did karate. So it was very very small numbers. And I feel like now people are really interested in jujitsu, specifically. I've seen
And the
that blow
things
up.
are changing, right? Means people are pursuing sports as a career.
Yeah,
Earlier, it's like you have to balance it out. If it
yeah,
is not, then your education is still backing up.
yeah,
And I think that mentality is still there. Parents want their kids that in case if it fails, they still have a backup, right?
yeah. Because in a way, it's like I could have went to Brock. I could have been a good wrestler and went for 5 years, but then it's like, what happens afterwards? Am I just going to keep on doing wrestling? You know, I'd say that like I know I'm not the smartest person in the world, but what I feel like I'm able to do is I always try to think differently. Because as a kid, people would just, teacher ask a question, kids throwing their hands up. I don't know what the answer is. Like I thought I do. I'm listening in class. I'm doing all the stuff I'm supposed to. I just don't know. So when it comes to like assignment writing, projects, I just try and think outside the box and do things differently. And so that's sort of been my approach to things because if I can't, be the smartest, well, let me try and be the funniest. Let me try and be the most different, see what we can do differently, and just sort of make things work.
And in sports, how you basically taking care of your body health, or I would say mental issues, right? There are.
Yeah, I think that Taekwondo I was doing pretty okay. I was really young, so then like, other than just like little, kids cry here and there, I'm back up and running, no problem. Um, there's, I think different aspects too. Like, one thing was like weight involved for wrestling. Like when I look back, I think like what I was doing was pretty unhealthy. I kind of was living on one of those bikes that you just keep in your, those like bikes that you work out on. I think I'd try and burn up to 1,000 calories a day and then consume less than 2,000 because I was really trying to cut my weight, but then also do things to be healthy and have vitamins and nutrients. And I was telling myself like, hey, this is fine because I'm losing weight for sport. But then like I look back and I'm like, it's still not really that healthy. It just wasn't that I was losing weight because I was big. It was because I was losing weight because I can't
And I
can't
think
face these big guys.
that's where early guidance really comes in picture, right? Means there needs to be someone or some support system who can educate you.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that is really lagging, which needs to be there, which needs to come at a earlier stage than coming at a lateral stage?
Yeah, it depends. I feel because my dad and I were different. With him, he was a wrestler as well, but he was like actually it was kind of the same because he said he was chubby when he was in grade 9,
Hmm.
but rather than him dropping, he stayed and he learned to wrestle like a big guy. So because if you were to wrestle when I was wrestling at first, the 83 kilo division, it's a lot of throws, it's a lot of pushing and stuff like that, and so and even like a just different way of wrestling. When I dropped down to 67.5, all of a sudden these guys are just like quickly, ankle pick, grab my foot, stand me up, trip me over. It's a whole other style of wrestling.
Hmm.
So I kind of learned the big guy wrestling in the first half of grade 9, and then the second half, all of a sudden it's little quick movements. It's a lot different. So my dad, he was like, yeah, I'm big in grade 9, but I'm just going to maintain this weight. And he maintained the same weight all through high school, never changed. And it's funny because he just looked like short and stubby in grade 9. And then grade 12's kind of built now, but literally the same weight division. And so he was able to succeed by learning his style of wrestling and sticking to it versus me, who was like, I don't like this. I need to switch it up a bit. And so it worked for him and it worked for me in my own sense. I wasn't able to go to OFSA. I got kind of robbed. It's a sad story actually. Um, I was so 72 kilos I had to be for my weight division.
Hmm.
I think 4 days beforehand, I was weighing at 75 kilos. So approximately like 9 pounds I had to drop in that time. I got to the weigh-ins. I was 72.3, point 0.3 over. Start running, they said. I start running. I go back, 72.2. Start running. Start running. Now it's final call. Like, you have to weigh in. I weigh in 72.1. Sorry, which
Oh
was too
man,
bad because
that was.
they let someone on my team who was point 0.1 over compete still, but they made me go wrestle the 78 division, and because I had basically was living on a diet of 2 eggs and toast and and a bottle of water for 3 days, my immune system was really weak, and then I got really sick. So then I'm competing, and my first match, lose horribly, throw up after the match.
Oh man.
Afterwards, I'm in the losers bracket. I think I won 5 matches in a row to make it to third. And then how it works is in like first, second, and third for GHAC, it's a round robin
Mm-hmm.
because only the top 2 competitors go to OFSA. And so I managed to beat one of the guys. Actually, no, sorry. I beat one of the guys earlier in the night. And then I lost to him later on in the round robin. And then I lost to the other guy in the round robin. But they were like huge. like the fact, like they must have been 78 exactly, and then I'm weighing in probably 73 because I
So it is
ate a bunch of food the night
there's a
before.
difference.
So there's a huge difference. I'm sick as well, sick as a dog wrestling, and this was my grade 12 year, and there was a part of me that was like, I really want to go grade 13, like I'll go
Mm-hmm.
to OFSA again, and my mom's like, who cares? You've been accepted to University of Waterloo. You have this opportunity. Just go for it.
Just go for
And
it.
so that was my decision, was to kind of like at that point was to give it up. But it was just kind of tough because I was really close,
Yes,
and all these
yes.
things were held like pushed against me. But at the same time, it was my own fault because I shouldn't have been 75 kilos, point three or sorry 3 kilos over what I was supposed to be. I think 4 or 3 days beforehand.
But I think you were not aware about those things, or it's just that maybe oversight.
No, it was in grade 11. I was fully aware. It was just, now that I'm in grade 12, a lot more distractions.
Exactly, exactly.
I feel like grade 9 and grade 10, I was really focusing on school, but then grade 11 and 12, it actually was easier. Grade
Mm-hmm.
9 and 10, it's actually kind of hard for me because it was like I was taking full, math, English, French. You had to take all these like required courses. And then by the time I'm in grade 11 and 12, I can take the specific courses that I want. And surprisingly enough, for the program that I was in, it didn't require too many really difficult courses. Kinesiology was the hardest course I took in high school, and it was tough. Like I said, I'm not the smartest kid, but I always try to think outside the box. And when it comes to kinesiology, it's just memory. So it was definitely difficult for me to learn those things. But I was able to pass. I was able to make it to the university that I wanted to, and so I was happy with that. But I had to call wrestling basically a quit.
Yeah. Sad for that.
Right.
But I think that's where once a sports person always is a sports person, right?
Mm,
And then the journey unfolded to right now Taekwondo teacher, and then as you said that you wanted to uh, use the marketing experience for the sports only, or towards the sports, not only sports but towards the sports,
yeah.
right? And that way then maybe satisfying a sports person inside you.
Yeah, no, because I still love sports. Like it's still a really important part of my life. The only issue is that when I got to a point where I was kind of letting sports almost be my personality, and so you can't really lose yourself in the sport that you enjoy. It's an aspect of you, but it shouldn't be you as a person.
Right, right. And that's where, do you want to take an opportunity to say something to your parents or to your friends or to your coaches which you haven't said yet? Maybe you can floor is yours.
Yeah, yeah. Let me just get some good names. Well, first, yeah, thank you to my mom, of course, because she was the one driving me to and from Taekwondo. I think like 3 times, 4 times a week, every day or every week. And so without her, I wouldn't have been able to do that. My dad, rest in peace, he uh, did a lot for me. He was like he was my cheerleader pretty much. Because my sister, she was the figure skater. Same with my mom. So that was a big focus for her. And then my dad kind of took Taekwondo as his attention. So I'm really thankful for him to be like so supportive because I don't think I would have ever done a tournament if it wasn't for him encouraging me.
That's true. That's true. I think parents does a lot. They really hustle everywhere, right?
Yeah,
That tournament, this class, that class, and
yeah.
they are, I think, really silent players
Mhm.
behind any sports person.
Oh, they're the most important person behind a player, and they're the number one cheerleader.
And any message to your friends or coaches?
Yeah, to my coaches that I've had in the past, thank you because you've kind of made me become who I am today, and to all the friends that I have in the world, Thank you for being you. I recently was diagnosed with testicular cancer, so I've had a lot of support from friends and family through that, and I'm just really thankful to have them in my life.
No, and thanks to you because you really agreed in such a short time
No
for
worries.
this podcast. And it is really like journey is not yet over. It is still in between, and then there are wonders. We don't know what would happen, but we really wish you a best of luck. And this journey should bring a benefits to all other in the sports. That is whole the purpose is that once a sports person, always is a sports person. And we are really grateful for your time,
Like,
and certainly we will have another part of a podcast where your journey might be at a different stage in sports.